In this video, we're going to talk about perpendicular bisectors. There are two things you need to know about perpendicular bisectors. First, that they form a 90-degree angle with another line. That's also called a right angle. And if they are 90 degrees or perpendicular, then their slopes are opposite reciprocals. And that means they have opposite signs and they have reciprocal fractions. As an example, if the slope of one line is 2/3, then the slope of the perpendicular line to that, in order for the line to be perpendicular, would need to be a -3/2. The fractions are flipped. One's positive, one's negative. That's the rule for all perpendicular lines. The other thing you need to know specifically about perpendicular bisectors is that the word bisects means that it cuts the segment in half, and in order to cut it in half, it has to go through the midpoint. And this is important because this is the point we're going to use to write the equation of the line. So here's an example. Line C is a perpendicular bisector to segment AB, and segment AB is the segment given here. Write the equation of line C. So remember, we're going to need two things to write the equation of a perpendicular bisector. We need the midpoint of AB, because it has to go through the midpoint to be a bisector. So that is one thing we're going to need. We're going to need the midpoint of AB. And then if this line is perpendicular to AB, it has to have an opposite reciprocal slope for AB. So we also need to find the slope of AB so that we can then find the opposite reciprocal. The formula for midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. So I can take these 2 points and I'm going to add the two x values given, -3 and 4, and divide by 2. And I'm going to add the two y values given, -5 and 7, and divide by 2. This will give us the midpoint of segment AB. So -3 plus 4 is 1, divided by 2 is 1/2. -5 plus 7 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. This is the midpoint, and this is the point we are going to use to write the equation of the line. So I have that. Now I need to find the slope of segment AB. The formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if we use these 2 points and we do this formula, we're going to get 7 minus -5 over 4 minus -3. And when we do this math here, this double negative will make these positive. We will get 12. Same thing here with the double negative over 7. This is the slope of AB. The slope of the perpendicular bisector of AB must therefore have an opposite reciprocal slope. So since this is 12 over 7, I'm going to use 7 over 12. I'm flipping it. And this one was positive, so this one would be negative. So I'm using this slope and this point, and I'm just going to write the equation of the line in point-slope form. If you need to review the video for writing equations of lines, go ahead and do that. But this is going to be y minus the y value of the point, which is 1, equals the slope we found times x minus the x value of the point, which was 1/2. This is the equation of my perpendicular bisector of line AB. So that's the equation of this line right here. We just wrote the equation of that line. Okay, one more example. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of the segment joining the point 2, -4, and 7, 3. So if you want to, you could draw a line here. We could call this endpoint 2, -4, and we could call this endpoint 7, 3. Remember, I need two things. I need the midpoint of this line. We can find that by adding the two x values, 2 plus 7, and dividing by 2, and adding the two y values, -4 plus 3, and dividing by 2. 7 plus 2 is 9, so I'm just going to leave that as 9 over 2. -4 plus 3 is -1, so that's -1/2. This is the point we're going to use to write the equation of the perpendicular bisector, which will look like this. The other thing, remember, I need is the slope of the given line. In this case, we didn't title it AB, we could. But the slope of the given line, which is going to be 3 minus -4 over 7 minus 2. This is going to give us 7 over 5. Therefore, the slope of the perpendicular bisector has to be the opposite reciprocal of that. So that's 7/5, so this is going to be 5/7. This was positive, so this is negative. So I'm going to use this slope, and I'm going to use this point. All we need to do now is write it in point-slope form. Y minus the negative 1/2, which is the y value here, equals the slope we found for our perpendicular bisector, make sure you use this one, times x minus the x value of the point, which was 9/2. Now I am going to clean this up just slightly by making that double negative a positive. And this is the equation of our perpendicular bisector.